One brother strode onto the London stage, lights blazing, headlines buzzing. The other, Prince Harry, just vanished. No rain check, no grainy paparazzi shot, not even a throwaway tweet. 24 hours earlier, Prince William had stolen the show at a climate forum. Harry was slated to pick up the royal baton, championing the eco-startup he founded. Yet when the curtains rose, his name echoed through an empty seat, then silence. How does a global figure, billed as the face of his own summit, disappear so cleanly that even the tabloids look away? Stick around, because the real mystery isn't the vanishing act itself, it's who's working overtime to keep it invisible. It started with an empty seat. Cameras panned past a neatly printed placard, Prince Harry, founder, travelist, but the chair beneath it stayed cold. Stage lights bounced off the polished lectern. The host cleared his throat, and the audience shifted, expecting a royal stride any second. Instead, an awkward shuffle rippled through the room as staff whisked the placard away like it had never existed. No brief apology, no pre-recorded greeting, just a tidy erasure, as if London Climate Week had drawn its curtains on a ghost. Outside, reporters refreshed feeds, waiting for the usual trickle of palace quotes or Sussex soundbites. Nothing. Even the gossip columns, famous for turning a late arrival into front-page drama, found themselves staring at a blank page. One by one they pivoted, covering catering, decor, anything to fill space, while the absence hung heavier than any speech could. When a public figure misses a fringe panel, you shrug. When the founder misses the keynote, you ask who pulled the plug, and why. But that wasn't the whole story. Most people don't realize just how much weight that missing keynote carried. Travelist isn't some side hustle Harry can dip in and out of. It's one of only 2 projects still stamped with his personal crest, the other being the Invictus Games. Strip those away, and the prince's post-palace resume looks painfully thin. So when London Climate Week handed him a prime slot, same stage, same spotlight William had dominated a day earlier, the expectation was simple. Show up, prove you still matter, keep donors calm. William had just finished charming ministers and billion-dollar CEOs, crisp suit, 0 missteps. His headlines painted a picture of steady, royal stewardship. Harry's appearance was meant to balance the brothers' narrative, 2 princes, 2 approaches, united front on climate. Instead, the empty chair screamed imbalance. Sponsors whispered about commitment, journalists revised angles in real time, and royal watchers tallied up another comparison that didn't favor the younger son. Because when your brother is stealing headlines, absence isn't neutral, it's nuclear, and it gets worse. Travelist's whole pitch is prince-backed, future-proof travel. If the prince goes missing, so does the proof. That single no-show risked years of branding, millions in pledged partnerships, and whatever credibility Harry still commands inside boardrooms. But while reputations can wobble, what happened next made the ground itself feel rigged. Normally, when a royal so much as sneezes, Britain's tabloids churn out a week's worth of front pages. Yet the morning after Harry ghosted his own summit, the press acted like they'd misplaced their magnifying glass. No frantic banner on the Sun, no screeching headlines from the Daily Mail, not even a cheeky sidebar on the gossip blogs. Legacy broadcasters buried the no-show beneath council budget stories, while U.S. entertainment outlets quietly cut Harry from their rundowns. It wasn't a lull, it felt like a collective shrug, an agreed-upon blackout so tidy you could almost hear the phone calls it took to orchestrate. That hush was louder than any scandal. Editors who habitually dine out on Sussex drama suddenly had nothing to dish, and the royal experts who usually parachute into every on-air panel were mysteriously double-booked. 2 possibilities emerged. Either Harry's absence was genuinely mundane, an explanation so benign it bored copy desks to sleep, or someone somewhere had leaned on the brakes hard enough to silence the global media cycle. Because royal newsrooms don't decide to look away on the same day without a nudge, and when the press looks away, conspiracies look in. Whispers moved faster than facts. The moment editors zipped their lips, Reddit threads exploded. Security scare? Mystery flu? A hush-hush trip to a wellness retreat? Soon the tone darkened. Someone dropped the word rehab, and the comment sections lit up like dry brush. Had the Duke spiraled so hard he'd checked himself into lockdown? Was it stress, prescription slip-ups, or something stronger that finally D his public calendar? Nobody knew, but the vacuum made every theory sound plausible. Then came the darker twist, claims that Harry had been quietly sedated after a late-night meltdown. A single anonymous post hinted he'd almost offed himself in a London hotel. Within hours, #pray for Harry trended, even as no credible source touched it. Each screenshot, each recycled rumor felt like a match tossed onto gasoline, because without an official line, the wildest version wins by default. Even the tame explanations couldn't stick. If this was a routine illness, why not say so? If it was purely logistics, why wipe his name from the summit program? The chatter snowballed further when eagle-eyed fans noticed old admissions Harry made about therapy, substance experiments, and late-night panic attacks. Those quotes resurfaced as supposed proof he'd finally cracked under the weight of royal exile. In reality, they proved nothing, except that silence turns yesterday's confessions into today's smoking gun. And through it all, one voice remained noticeably absent, the voice that usually scripts the Sussex narrative with hashtags and filtered affirmations. But when the brand architect goes quiet, the story really starts to shift. And then came the strangest hush of all. Meghan's. For a woman who can spin a morning latte into a motivational quote, her feeds have gone dark. No pastel affirmations, no carefully lit family photos, not even a cryptic Archwell press line. The Duchess, who once dazzled Silicon Valley with podcast pitches, is suddenly fine print invisible. That isn't a coincidence. Silence is never her default setting. Fans combed her usual channels, Instagram fan pages, lifestyle blogs, LinkedIn whispers, only to find outdated posts about garden roses and a long-expired cookie recipe. PR insiders swear no embargo is in place, yet every friendly outlet claims they're waiting on guidance. Waiting for what? If Harry merely caught a cold, Meghan could have dropped a feel-good update in under 280 characters. Instead, she's left a void so wide the tabloids are echoing inside it. Some observers say she's executing a calculated narrative freeze, holding all statements until the couple can re-emerge in lockstep. Others suspect she's scrambling behind the scenes, calling lawyers, cool-glancing crisis consultants, praying the storm burns out before it hits their coastal compound. Either way, every hour of stillness paints a harsher picture. Maybe she can't spin this, or worse, she doesn't know what to spin. And that vacuum, it's about to suck in a rumor wrapped in A-list glitter, the George Clooney villa theory, the wild card that shifts the entire board. They called it the Clooney curveball. A whisper that Harry ditched his eco-summit for a champagne-soaked soiree at George Clooney's Lake Como hideaway. On paper, it sounds delicious. Hollywood glitter, soft-focus selfies, a prince choosing limelight over lectures. But look closer. Not one blurry tabloid snap, not a single waiter's TikTok, no airport lounge sighting, no anonymous yacht crew leak. For a man whose coffee runs make headlines, slipping through Malpensa arrivals unseen is about as likely as William crowd-surfing Glastonbury, and the timing is lethal to the rumor. Clooney's dinner supposedly landed the same night Harry's name vanished from the summit program, hours after every social media tracker confirmed the Duke was still booked into a London hotel. Unless he teleported across Europe, the geography alone torpedoes the tale. Pap photographers had staked out both venues. Neither yielded so much as a car door shot. Even industry fixers, who love bragging about private guest lists, told reporters they'd heard zero Sussex chatter. So why did the story stick? Because the alternative is darker. Harry wasn't clinking glasses under fairy lights. He was nowhere the cameras could reach. Luxury retreat, some murmured, but insiders countered with a stricter code word lockdown facility. The kind that confiscates phones, shreds itineraries, and signs ironclad NDAs. Total media blackout makes sense there. Clooney's villa does not. In a world where every celeb dinner spills onto Instagram before dessert, the cleanest explanation for no evidence is that the party never happened, and that Harry's disappearance isn't about glamour at all, but about walls too high for tabloids to scale. Which begs the bigger question: if Lake Como was a ghost story, who planted it, and what are they trying to distract us from? Follow the silence, and you'll spot the winners. When Harry melts off the radar, a handful of power players quietly bank the upside. First up, Buckingham Palace. With William riding a wave of positive headlines, the firm can sidestep questions about spare-turn-disruptor drama. No messy footage, no sidelong comparisons, just a clean royal narrative trimmed of turbulence. Every minute Harry stays MIA lets the palace showcase a future king who never flinches. Then come the summit sponsors. Travelist's corporate backers loathe scandal more than carbon emissions. If their front man is in meltdown mode, a swift rebrand, minimize his face, maximize the mission, protects millions in green tourism deals. An absent duke, fewer awkward shareholder calls. Don't cry for the tabloids either. A blackout isn't lost revenue, it's deferred profit. The longer the mystery brews, the bigger the eventual clickquake when someone finally cracks it. For now, they're stockpiling leads, ready to unleash a week-long Inside Harry's Lost Months special the instant an editor gives the nod. Across the Atlantic, Hollywood dealmakers aren't exactly mourning. If Harry's rehab rumor proves true, insurance clauses kick in, Netflix delays quietly reset, and the Sussex brand's licensing value drops to a bargain. That's prime fishing for studios hungry to reboot the royal saga without paying royal prices. And lurking in the background are the crisis PR gurus, the same whisper farmers who can turn a vanishing act into a transformational wellness journey. Every hour of silence fattens their future invoices. When the curtain finally rises, they'll sell the comeback story, billable by the page. Because here's the brutal equation: when a public figure disappears, someone else always gains control of the narrative real estate he vacated. The question isn't just where Harry went, it's whose agenda fills the gap while he's gone. And that brings us to the final, most unsettling possibility. So here we sit, refreshing feeds, scanning tabloids, chasing ghosts, while the one man who could end the guessing game stays quiet behind a wall of polished PR stone. If Harry truly slipped into a lockdown clinic, we'll eventually see the carefully choreographed comeback, soft focus interviews, redemption headlines, maybe a new ribbon-cutting cause. If he simply bolted from the spotlight for good, Travelist will rewrite its founder page, and the palace will pretend the spare was never part of the plan. Either way, the fallout lands on everyone else: sponsors hedging bets, journalists sharpening angles, fans wondering whether their prince is breaking through the fog or breaking apart. Yet the longer this hush drags on, the sharper the questions cut. Who ordered the media blackout that stopped the ravenous press in its tracks? Why did Meghan, queen of curated narrative, vanish from her own social stage? And what happens when, or if Harry steps back into the glare with clearer eyes and a colder view of the empire he walked away from? Because make no mistake, a man who's wrestled his demons in private doesn't return to play the same game by the old rules. Maybe he'll re-emerge tomorrow with a casual grin and a tidy explanation that renders every rumor moot. Or maybe this is the pivot point where the story bends into something none of us saw coming. Until those lights flip on and the Duke speaks for himself, every hour of silence is another chapter we're forced to write without him. So tell me, what do you think happened behind those closed doors? Drop your theory below, because the next line in this saga might come from you before it comes from the missing prince.